Hello and welcome to another episode of HMS Odyssey Presents. Today we're doing an interview with Kate Cornelius. She is a friend of mine. We've known each other for a number of years. And of course, life gets long. We got a little separated, but uh, in her feed it popped up this book, and it is dropping at the end of the month. And I was like, holy crap, I gotta talk to her about this book because it looks really cool. So we're doing a small interview today. We're chatting a little bit, and I think you're really going to enjoy the episode. And if you really want to get it at the end of the month, June 28th is the drop of the book. It will be available through Amazon, and it is a physical paperback book. And of course, we talked about this, and you'll see it towards the end of the interview here, but she has a PDF available only for certain things. I think you have to be in her program to get that. But regardless, the book, the person, amazing, and I hope you'll enjoy this interview. Hey Kate, how are you today?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing really well, really well. It's been a while since we've connected, so I'm just
Yeah,
gonna jump right in here. So, what has life looked like for you since we last spoke?
man, life has been wild. It's been wild. I think, like everybody else, there's been so many ups and downs, but there's a lot of resilience that comes with that. And I've had so much fun over the last few years building my community and connecting with amazing people, writing some books, just doing things.
Yeah, you've been busy. You've been busy. If I'm not mistaken, this is book number 4, right?
Four, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
So, what inspired you to write this book, Spectrum Language, specifically? Like, was there a moment that you realized this book needed to exist?
Um, Interestingly enough, I think I might have done business backwards. So this book is actually a compilation of the work that I've been doing for the last 4 years. Like I mentioned before, I have this community where we're working on embodiment and growth mastery and connecting via different modalities to our own personal journeys and how we can better serve ourselves and the collective by doing that. And inside of that group, I actually expand on the principle and the framework that's in this book. And I use it in a triangulation method. So it's a bit more
Mm.
advanced. And over the last probably, I'd say since the middle of 2023, I have been compiling this data of language with different values and processes within the journey. So, like, within our journeys, we'll talk about like surrender or kind of feeling rejected, or words like judgment, determination, discipline, right? These really heavy values and skill sets and things that are required for us to kind of get where we're going. And I noticed over time that we have such a view on what that is that I just in my group had started, let's just talk about it. Like, let's just see where we're at. Let's see how it applies to us. And let's use that as a resource to now navigate forward. And that's really what's inside of the book
Yeah,
overall.
that's really cool. So it's a multitude of perspectives, and you're
Um,
fortunate enough to have this group to help out with that. And then
yeah,
you have your own input. Is that what
I
I'm kind
I
of getting?
do. Yeah. So I was actually really inspired by Asking It Is Given. You've read
Mm.
Abraham Hicks, her book
Hmm.
Asking It Is Given. Um, I've been certified in the law of attraction for several years. And when I started in business, I came back to a lot of these books that we had talked about the first time that we had done our interview, when we're talking about like Napoleon Hill and Abraham Hicks and all of these people who are so instrumental in our ability to kind of find our own application within this world. And inside of my group, one of the easiest ways that I was able to connect with people was like, yo, you guys have read this book, right? Like, where are you at on the spectrum? We've all seen it. We all know what that looks like. We've all tried to apply it into our lives, 1 through 22. I'm up or I'm down, right?
Yep.
And it was the easiest way to start connecting. And like I said, I was triangulating information based on values. I'd use things like Oracle cards that literally
Mm.
just had a single word. Hey, how do you guys feel about this? Like, this is a big word. Discipline's a big word, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and people would start to kind of engage with that. And I would use that with their feedback about the spectrum. And they'd be like, hey, I'm at a 4 today. I'm at an 11 this week. I don't know. I was a 13 and now I'm a 7. Like, and I started to compile that based on how they were answering this other information about this is how I feel about discipline. This is how I feel about partnership. This is how I feel about reciprocity. And
Okay.
I started to build a glossary.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, if you had to describe this book in one sentence to someone who's never heard of it, like what would you say?
Um, I would say that this is an orientation manual for self-identification.
Okay, I like that. So the title Spectrum Language is intriguing. What does the spectrum language mean?
So to me, the spectrum overall is just this existence that we are living in, right? When I asked people multitudes of questions, hey, how do you feel about this? What's your opinion on XYZ? Right? The most common feedback that I got was, well, it depends. It depends on my environment. It depends on my experience. It depends, right? My opinion, my brother's cousin's uncle. Like, it's the number one piece of feedback. And in looking at that and in relating that to how do you guys feel within this 1 to 22 range, which is just a spectrum of information, you
Hmm.
know, I started to look at it and say, okay, the spiritual community overall is so focused on healing versus not healed, right? I'm healed or not healed. It's this binary construct of like I have to be one or the other, and no one lives in that. No one lives in that. It's all a gray range.
Hmm.
And when I started to look at language, when I started to look at how people were relating themselves to these different energetic states, they were like, I'm an 11 and I'm a 7 today. You know, I'm a
Hmm.
22 and I hit a 4. And I went like this in between all of that. And as I was kind of navigating this, I mean, I started to see it really becomes this spectrum of on any day, discipline could be a positive or a negative, right? I could overdo it or I could not do enough of it.
Hmm.
And that's really, I think, the way that we start to approach things. And the more we can just say, you know, this is where I'm at. I'm unbiased about it. I'm going to use that as a resource and leverage that resource to move forward. I think we reduce a lot of the stigma that we'd like to call trauma within the
Hmm.
industry itself. And that actually gives us a stepping stone to move forward.
Right, right. So do you consider this a communication system, a mindset, a framework, or something else entirely?
Um, I think this is an internal calibration. So
Okay.
one of the things for me, I work a lot in embodiment and growth mastery overall. And I think that requires not necessarily a fixed identity, but it requires a confidence. It requires an understanding. It requires this awareness of who you are and where you are. And a lot of times there is this mixture of positive and negative that we're battling in order to be able to figure that out,
Mm.
and we just need the accurate placement in order to do that. And so, you know, we start to build that through this internal state of self-identification, self-actualization, by just determining what our thoughts and opinions are without influence from
Yeah,
other people and systems and relationships and things like that.
sure. So what do you consider the difference between the self-confidence and the self-trust?
I think they go hand in hand. I think confidence is that spark that allows us to take an initial step in building trust. You
Okay.
know, so many of us in life we've faced experiences, we have faced trials, we've faced consequences, we've faced all of these different aspects. And I don't know that we've been given the proper tools to actually identify where we are at. And so
Hmm.
sometimes we miscalculate or we'll misplace our own status in that. And then we don't have a correct point for actually leveraging where we're at.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's yeah. I can relate to that. So, what are some of the subtle signs that a person has lost that trust in themselves or confidence in themselves, but may not realize it?
I think we definitely start to use language, and Abraham Hicks touched on this a lot in Ask and It Is Given. I think it's one of the common parallels that we have is this mindset around how our language dictates what we're actually able to create. And in her book, she does a really great job of breaking down. I think that she has like 20 or 22 principles
Okay.
for how to actually apply this. I have one. Like I have one, right?
Yeah.
I really think that this comes down to our ability to, in looking at where we are at, understanding this next step. And
Mm.
I totally lost where I was going with that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So is this self-trust something that we're born with, or do we have to develop it or build it over time?
I think it depends, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
nature versus
It's
nurture
the
situation.
ultimate
The
answer, right?
ultimate, yeah, the ultimate
Yeah.
answer.
My
Um,
wife hates when I say that
you
because I'm
know
like,
what's it's true though. What's really
yeah,
interesting
it
is like
is.
in my group, when I'm triangulating this information, when I was compiling this information, I've studied astrology since I was 10, 11,
Hmm.
and I don't use astrology and trying to formulate like my thoughts and my opinions overall. I'm sure it definitely filters in. But in triangulation, I actually use human design, right? It's one of the
Yeah,
ways that I start to pull some of these values and some of like they use gates in human design and
sure.
you look at those gates and you're like, I resonate with that. Like I know what that
Yeah.
is. I feel that, right? Um, and like in astrology, we have like these different signs where it's fixed signs, we have mutable signs, things are a little airy. And human design kind of plays on that, but
Mhm.
it's more of an energetic signature, right? And we're all fixed energetic signatures. So I think we all do have this sense of self-trust. We have
Mhm.
this ability to know within ourselves what's right, what's wrong, where we're going, where we're not going, what's in alignment with us and not in alignment with us. But that's the thing that's not been developed. That's the thing that maybe we don't have a lot of information on because we weren't taught how to use it. We weren't taught how to listen. And then we're thrown into situations where maybe we don't do the thing we say we're going to do. We don't show up and people don't reciprocate, right? And we can't
Mhm.
build the trust that's required for us to have the self-trust that we need.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny because you actually I was gonna say what surprised you most about your research and writing process, and you touched on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see if I could get a little more on that because that actually I see like a bunch of different areas poking in.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by human beings. I'm fascinated by the way we connect. I'm fascinated by the world and the fact that the world is in the state that it's in and all of
Mhm.
us feel the way that we feel and those things are so vastly disconnected and yet ultimately connected because they're influencing each other. Like it's so juicy to me. I just
Yeah.
to see
So
how people are using those thoughts like
yeah. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly get it. I've noticed a big shift at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
There it actually started last year, but it was a big build and then there was I felt a massive shift. I want to say in late January, early February.
Mhm.
Things just really changed for me.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure out what's going on because, this is a global thing.
Mhm.
The energies are shifting, everything is changing. So, was there
Yeah.
anything that surprised you in your research and writing this? Because I know me and you are both a little, we can both get a
Mhm.
little woo-woo, and we're okay with that. But then there's
I'm
a certain amount of logic there too. So I'm just curious if anything popped out
I'm
at
not
you.
surprised necessarily by the information that I found, but I think the thing that stood out to me the most is the lack of accountability that
Mm,
we as humans, as humanity, tend to have when it comes to ourselves, our own journeys, our interactions with other human beings,
yeah.
right? And all of this, like this back and forth, this victimhood, this need to have something without actually giving something back, I think is part of that disconnect where the external is feeding into this internal, I can't trust myself, I can't go do the thing, I can't figure out even where I'm at within the spectrum of life, right?
Yeah.
And when the world is moving so quickly and things are changing so quickly and we are experiencing just a magnitude of it, things that we've never had to experience before, that becomes chaos because we don't have an internal anchor point, right?
Yes. Yes. No, yeah, I agree. And I've noticed that it's easier to take that victim mentality and not actually take accountability for things. It's easier to either push it to the side
Yeah.
or look for that external reason why things aren't going as they should. And that's a tough stepping stone to get over
I,
for most
I
people,
agree. I think it is
including myself.
easier. I think it's easier. I think it's also a learned behavior, right? I think all of this just comes back to that constant, it's the chicken and the egg scenario, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
really matter who came first. It just matters that now we know like we have a chicken and we have an egg,
Yeah.
right? And we
Hmm.
have to know that there is a process and a pattern that goes into that. And ultimately, I used to hate in business when people were like, no one's going to come save you. You're the one who has to step in and like do all of the things. And as much as I hate it, like it's so true that we have to at some point be willing to step up. And that's where I think that confidence comes in, right? We have to be willing to say, hey, look, this is who I am. This is where I'm at. This is what I know. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm willing to not do. Right.
Hmm.
And use that to kind of build this construct because we're not kids anymore. There really isn't anyone coming to save us. Like we're watching the world burn. And we have to be able to have a way to kind of anchor ourselves into some semblance of stability and solidity and just groundedness overall. And I think that's where we start to build communities. Like that's
Hmm.
our entire generation is about the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed that it has become more of a
Mm-hmm.
thing as I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, it was more like when I was in my sports
Mm-hmm.
teams,
Right.
sports teams are teams. But now that
Right.
and then I had the Marine Corps, and Marine Corps is one big, massive,
Brotherhood. Yeah.
cult. Gun cult is really more
Yeah.
appropriate word. But now I'm kind of out of that, and I'm finding my new groups around
Mm-hmm.
spiritual spaces and more like-minded people, which I would have never been connected to when I was younger, first of
Yeah.
all, because I was never interested in any of that. I was in my sports and in my zone and in my own life. But now I have friends and people all over the world that are not available locally to me,
Right.
or at least, I'm not combing the streets trying to find people who have similar mindsets. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
That's
Um,
actually a really great representation overall of like how the spectrum is. It's not one thing or another, right? Your
mm,
community before served your journey and your relationships and the need for where you needed to be on one end of the spectrum versus now the way that community has to be built and you have to start structuring your life around that. It's a really beautiful example of our human evolution just within our own journeys, but also how we look at different aspects of language and our application of language within our journey as we're trying to navigate that.
yeah, 100%. So was there a concept in this book that challenged your own beliefs and maybe you had to change your perspective?
I don't think so. I think this is something that is so innate to my core values, my core personality. I think this is the way, it's interesting. I've gone back and I've read this book since I've written it, since I've gotten it ready to publish. I've gone back and read it probably 7 or 8 times. And every time I
Mhm.
read it, I'm like, who wrote it? I couldn't have written this. I can't believe that like I believe this way. And yet every time I read it, I'm like, that's the way that I've raised my kids. That's the way that I interact with my spouse. That's the way that I interact with friends and family and colleagues. And it's the way that I recalibrate. And I know you've heard me say all of this time, all of the years that we've known each other, like for me, it's always about recalibrating to a truth, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's like, what does it mean? What is that? It literally is this recentering into this is my accurate representation within this spectrum. This is where I'm at, what I feel, what I think, where I'm going, right? And as I read it, I'm like, it just is a core innate value of where I'm at and how I do things and just live life to get what I have, where I'm going.
Mm.
all of the things.
Yeah.
And I look at it and like that makes me really proud.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's something I ever would have looked at before and been like, yeah, that innate gift you have, that's so cool. But
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, man, I've been building this for 4 years, 5 years. And I didn't even know, I didn't recognize
Mm.
until I physically wrote it that like this is just the simplified version of all of the other things. I thought I was just building
Yeah.
a glossary. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's gonna have this cool little glossary. It's gonna be awesome, you
Yeah.
know?
And that's funny because I've written some posts and stuff, and I don't use AI. I
Mm-hmm.
rarely ever use AI. I used it to build our little thumbnail. That's
Mm-hmm.
about it. So all of my old Facebook posts I wrote,
Yeah.
and I'll go back every once in a while, and I'll just like, just scroll through it and find one and just read it. And I'm like, holy shit, like this speaks to my soul. Like, and I'm like, I wrote this, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, damn, I haven't written anything in a long time. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I need to do it again because this
Dude,
is
your
it's
writings
like,
are they're so spot on. Like they're so
thank you.
inspirational in the way that you break down information. I think it's one of the reasons why people love the work that you do and love your channel and just getting to like be in your vibe because you do have a gift with like, hey, this is where it is. This is how we
Yeah.
work through it. And like you're
Yeah.
loved and supported.
And see, I love to get it on the paper. That's why I wrote down all my questions because I would
Mm-hmm.
I would just float and we would probably be talking about something 1,000 miles away by now.
It'd be
But
aliens.
yeah, I did take a little bit of a step away from my channel and my page and everything. And I had some personal things that I wanted to deal with. I needed to do some personal growth and I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to do something again. So I started doing little streams, and then all of a sudden your book popped up, and I was like, holy crap, I hadn't seen any of your posts in a little while. And the first thing I saw was that you're doing this book, and I was like, oh man, I gotta connect again.
Yeah, I love that. I hope
So
that's the way that this works for everybody, where they see it and they're like, man, I gotta connect. I gotta reach out to
yeah,
that person. I gotta change my language. I gotta do something. I gotta be in touch with this.
yeah, yeah, and it's all about taking that first step, and that was for me just getting back in front of the camera and then trying to write again. And speaking of writing, was there a chapter that was particularly difficult for you to write? Or since now that
Um,
we're talking, I noticed some things are different. You've been kind of writing this in your own head for 4 years.
yeah, I've been writing this for a really long time. Like I said, I mean it was flowing. I
Mm,
didn't know what this was going to end up becoming. I didn't know um there's case studies in here. There's like the case studies I think were probably the hardest for me to
mm,
be able to kind of step in and be like, okay, based on where we're at, how can we talk about worth in this exact chapter? Like this is going to be the moment where we really got to kind of, and it's the same thing I would do in my group where a good example, we're talking about partnership this week. We talked about reciprocity last week. It's just kind of the values that came up and you know, I'm trying to apply these things to life and the case studies for how do you apply a general insight for the collective to be able to really use,
mm.
without duplicating things that are um, in the glossary or you know various other places in the book. I wanted this to be something super special, and so those case studies really became a part within my glossary that was my hardest to create, which is the domains of the word itself. So like internal state, external state,
Mm.
various parts within the domain, like relationships, abundance, calibration, like just identity, self-trust. If people really want to be able to break down where they're at, if they really want to be able to say, look, this is an internal state, this is something that's strictly mine to interact with, it's strictly mine to navigate versus an external state versus an action state, this is where they're going to find it in this
Yeah,
glossary. They're going to be able to put those together. And
got a
it wasn't
decent
the
amount of
hardest
it.
to write, it was the hardest for me to create overall in studying and breaking down that information to actually see where those pieces came together and to say this is
Mm.
an internal versus external battle. It's not healed versus unhealed.
Yeah,
it's me against the world, right? And it's how can I contribute to this world so that we can be better.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you have a decent amount of information to go through here. Yeah, well, that explains that. Okay. So, do you do you talk about the relationship between self-trust and personal freedom in there?
I don't talk about it explicitly.
Okay.
The thing that I really want people to get from this book is I want them to understand this is a continuous journey. And
Okay.
so, whatever your concept is of freedom, whatever your concept is of fulfillment, first and foremost, it's your job to identify it. And that's what you're
Right.
doing within this book is to really pinpoint where that is within the spectrum for you and where you would like it to be so you could work through that. But more than that, I'm relating overall to what that sense of fulfillment is on every page. I mean, all of it is leaning towards this bigger picture and how can you create it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, so what role does uncertainty play in developing this self-trust? Because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to go through and granted, it's easy to say that our journey is always going to be like this ebb
Mm-hmm.
and flow of life. And we're going to make tons of mistakes and stuff, but that uncertainty is a big key player.
Yeah, uncertainty is a big key player. Fear, I think, is a driving factor for most decisions that are made in life, right?
Mhm.
We've talked about that, I think, over the years, where we talk about like 5 different dynamics of fear and how everyone kind of boils down to like that base instinct of infancy, where it's like your mom walked out and left you in the dark kind of thing.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's because it's a driving factor. I think it is probably a really good starting place for everyone to start within the spectrum.
Yeah.
um, you know, people are going to come up against challenge every second of every day, and I can't guarantee that just by reading this book, people are going to want to jump in, that they're going to alleviate all of the fears, right? But the one thing that I can guarantee in them being able to read this is that there is opportunity to be able to have the freedom to do it at pace, right? You don't have to jump in.
Yeah.
We're not going from 0 to 100. And in fact, in the book, it breaks it down into this weekly orientation so that fear and uncertainty don't have to be a stepping stone, right? I'm a dweller. I'm a breath holder. I'll hold on to it to the grave kind of person.
Yeah.
And I've had so many people over the years be like, you got to let go of it. You can't be angry about things. Set a time limit, right? And a
Mhm.
week works for me. I can hold on to something for a week. I can give myself enough time to process. I found 24 hours didn't work. And a week really kind of gives me some time to hop around. It gives me a little bit of pace, right? It
Yeah.
also gives me time to practice. It gives me
Mhm.
time to implement. It gives me time to recognize patterns. So I'm not jumping the gun. So I'm not making rash decisions. So I'm not inaccurately naming where I'm at within a process or a learning curve. Have you ever have you ever read a book or you've kind of like had this inspirational download where like you'll see a post or then you'll hear a podcast from somebody and everyone's talking about all of these same things and you're getting more information and you're just consistently absorbing all of that
Mhm.
and you could do it for hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, 25 hours, whatever, a week and a half. Like I know you've been there. I know you've
Yeah.
just sunk into it and you've absorbed it. We do that with negative
Yeah.
just the same as we do it with positive because life is the spectrum. We are on both sides of that at all points and everything is yin yang. It is duality, right? And so I think giving ourselves a week, I think kind of setting this timeline and saying, hey, let's integrate. Let's see how we feel about uncertainty. Let's start there.
Mhm.
I'm uncertain about how this is going to work. I'm uncertain about how I feel about it. What's it going to do? I don't know. Let's try it.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. I've gotten to a point where I don't let things bother me too much. I pretty much let them go in like a day because I've come to the point where it either affects me right now or it doesn't.
Do you think you
And
just
then
got
it
better at making a decision on where you were at, on like your thoughts and your beliefs about?
Pretty
particularly?
much. Yeah, I've gotten a little more confidence in my decision-making process, and I've come to trust in myself
Mhm.
that I'm going to make the best decision in that moment. Unless there's some crazy unknown variable that I don't know about,
Right.
I just do it and I don't look back.
Yeah.
And that also stems from my accident, right? Like my
Mhm.
accident, it happened like that, and
Right.
there's nothing I could have done about it. But then
Mhm.
from then on, it's like I just don't hold grudges. I just
Yeah.
don't get jealous. I just don't. I mean, I get envious
Right.
of other people with their success because I'm, striving towards that myself, and I'm like, oh, look forward to being in that position one day.
Right.
But I do like your frame there. Like I don't you hold on to it for a week and you think about it in different ways and this and that and I'm like, man, I just feel like my brain is just baked and I don't want to worry about these things for very long. I've
I
had
think
some.
over time we build the discipline. For me, I make
Mhm.
decisions super quick.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've lived this probably, I mean, I'd say my entire life. I don't know when I actually started living this. I don't know like when it actually integrated or if it was like some core function I got from my ancestors. Like I don't know.
Mm.
I just know that it feels right. I know that it works. I know that it works every time that I've tested it. And the more I do it, the quicker I get, and the
Yeah.
more trust that I have, and the more it's easier, the more it becomes easier for me to set boundaries, to stick by them, to navigate life, to hold self confidence for my own beliefs and my own opinions, and not to put them off on somebody else, but just to say, look, it's where I'm at. It's how
Yeah.
I feel. And, you're mentioning like, I just kind of brush it off. I brush it off in a day. So do I. There's a
Yeah.
lot of times where I'm like instant. It's an instant thought. No, yes, don't want it. Yes, I'll do it. Like, cool. And it becomes so simple. But when we're talking about starting from uncertainty,
Mm.
don't
Yeah.
spiral infinitely. Don't put
Trust
yourself in a ditch
trusting.
where,
Yeah,
yeah,
trusting that
testing.
intuition too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've been developing that more and more and more and more
Oh my gosh.
as we gone along and you see it. I saw it on, man. So we were just watching season 50 of Lost,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
there's like a couple contestants that they were like, man, I should have played this idol to save myself and keep myself on the island, and they didn't. And I'm like, man, it's so common to see these people, their intuition is just screaming in their ear, and they're like, no, I think I'm gonna just
You're not.
listen to my brain because my brain knows better. And you're like, what? And then they get voted out and they're like, man, I should have listened. And I'm like, but that's the funny thing. The one person that I'm thinking of is Ozzy from Lost. I don't know if you ever watched Lost, but he's been somebody who's been invited back
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. And it's the second or third time he's been voted off the island with an idol in his pocket because he listened to his brain rather than his intuition.
He needs my
And I'm
book.
like, that's mind blowing to me. And
Ozzy,
it
you
and
need
it's
spectrum language.
I know, right? But but that's the thing. Most people, I
It
you know,
really is.
I wouldn't
It,
say most people, but it's something that you have to develop.
I would say most people. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think that's really unbiased. Look, it's the truth is what it is.
sure,
We can't sit here and say, look, I'm 100% great. I know what I'm doing. I have no struggles, no issues. Life is fantastic. Like even the top 1% isn't saying that.
right,
No.
yeah,
And I think a lot of us come from witnessing previous generations, be the silent generation, be the apathetic generation, be I'm not willing to stand up and communicate generation. And here we are, we're struggling,
yeah,
unable to name where we're currently at, and uncertain about moving forward and doing so because we
mm,
have zero guidance and zero foundation on what that actively looks like. And then we
right,
get people like Abraham Hicks that are like, you guys, here's a guidance scale, like go and do it. And I can picture, and I can't guarantee, but just from what I know of how people feel about the spiritual community, I could picture the backlash of like, it says law of attraction. It's woo woo, right? It's negative. It's not
yeah,
going to work, right? And like, how many people didn't actively apply it? How many people didn't learn? And her book's been out forever,
yeah,
forever, right?
yeah.
Like,
That's definitely something that I noticed
you
too.
know,
You get these people, the rare few of the past generations that had these ideas that really know what they're talking about. And it was shunned, but
Yeah.
I think our generation is really starting to wake up.
Yeah. I think so
We've
too.
had more awake in our generation than any other generation previously, so I'm starting to see more and more, and I'm starting to be able to talk to people
Yeah.
more and more. And not only that, typically I'll try to mute some of the woo-woo because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can be a little too much, and I don't want to assume where somebody's at in their journey
Right.
and just bust right into it, right?
Right.
But I have noticed, like, I do play one game frequently, and there is a option available. And when
Mhm.
I get on, they're like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your day?" And I'm like, "No, tell me your dreams and goals and like your desires." And they're like, "What the fuck?"
I
And
love
it
it.
just goes down like this crazy conversation.
Yeah.
And a couple people, that's one of the reason I started streaming is because they're like, "Holy shit, that talk that we had together like a
Mhm.
year ago changed my life." And I'm like, "I don't remember a single word that I said." And
How you know
and
it was magic?
yeah, no, and that's the thing is I think I feel like sometimes I become the channel,
Hmm.
and I, I
That's what I think about your
experience
writing too.
yeah, I
Hmm.
experience a lot of things and I do a lot of things, and it's just for moments like that. Like I got to this place and this kid, I helped him realize that he had a ton of grief around his parents because his parents, he had a not so good upbringing, and then his parents died in a car accident, and he'd never got that closure. And he
Oh.
just boxed it all up and
Hmm.
shoved it to the back of the closet. And, it's there.
Right.
But just through one chat with him, he's like, holy shit, like I didn't even realize that box was there, but it's been like leaking and now the ceiling is like covered
Yeah.
with this grief. And like I gave him like one little tool. I was like, here's something that I like to do, which is Ho'oponopono.
Hmm.
Very simple. I felt called to tell him about that. Four simple phrases, four simple sentences. It's not even a sentence. Yeah, we'll go with phrases. Four
Hmm.
little phrases combined. Yeah, and I gave him a little bit of the history, and sent him on his way. And he was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
"I haven't even done anything." Like we had a 30, 40 minute conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
it was
impactful
incredible.
though. That ability to connect and that ability to help someone accurately identify their own placement. Like that's the thing I think that we've been missing for so long. And I think that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why we are so geared towards searching out community that will help us do it. Trying to
Mhm.
find validation. Like validation is such a no-no word. Just in life, online, like in
Sure.
social media, just you can't go get validated by people. I'm like, I need some feedback. I'm a person.
Yeah.
You're a person, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't you love
Yeah.
hearing your writing is so good? Man,
Yeah.
your
It does.
conversation impacted me. Of course you do. Of
Yeah.
course
Yeah, and ironically, I'm sure you have this too. You put out some good stuff. I know you did your
you
podcast and stuff. But I find there's a lot of lurkers,
do. Yeah.
right? And then, I'll bump into somebody either in person or later on down the road and they'll message and they're like, dude, that post was incredible. And I'm like, bro, fucking drop a fucking like.
Yeah.
Tell me that you like it. Like that makes
Support.
me feel better and it makes me
Yeah.
want to dump more out for you.
Mhm. This
But I
exchange,
get it.
the reciprocity. Oh,
Oh, I
the
get it though,
feedback.
right? Like you read something and it makes you feel some type of way and you're not sure of that feeling. And like you said,
Yeah.
it's the validation within themselves
Yeah.
too. So it makes them feel uncomfortable, gives you that uncertainty, and then it's like, I don't know whether I want to comment and be associated with this or not.
Even if intuition says I
Right.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, my brain says
100%.
I'm gonna go, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
I'll
go,
never. I'll
yeah,
never.
run away.
Close you out. Yeah. And then they can't find your profile again.
Yeah,
Then they run into you though and they're like, oh man, saw you.
yeah, so good. And I'm like,
Oh good.
tell me that, mother. I want to hear that.
We're wild. We are a wild species. And all of us at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want to
Hmm.
love and be loved. We want to accept
Hmm.
and be accepted. We want
Love and
to,
connection. Yeah.
yeah, we just want love and connection. And, you know, I'll be the first to say starts with me. You'll be the first to say it starts with me, right?
Yeah.
And I think the more of us that are willing to step up and do that, the easier it becomes for all of us to start doing that, right? And
Yeah.
uncertainty then just starts to diminish.
Sure. Yeah. So what do you hope readers feel after they finish that final page?
I would like to say that I hope they're inspired. I think people will be a little scared. I hope people are a little unnerved, honestly.
Ooh,
I hope that the lurkers are a little uncomfortable. I hope there's a little uncertainty because it means that something is important enough for you to actually recognize it. It means that
sure.
you're actually willing to maybe potentially do something about it. And I
Mm,
hope that I've struck a nerve with people when they look at it. The cover literally says the field manual for stabilizing self-trust. And when I was building this cover, I was like, hey, how do you guys feel about this tag? And one of the guys in the research group was like, I feel like I'm pretty good on my self-trust. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Thanks. Appreciate your feedback. And he
yeah.
was like, am I not? And I was like, I don't know. Are you? Like, it's not my self-trust.
Yeah.
But he was like, okay, instantaneously, like I was a little triggered. And I was like, good. That's the one I'm going to use. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
Oh, dude,
Um,
I love that too. I love when, you mention something and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have that." I'm like, "Oh, well, good for you." And then they're like, "Wait, what?"
yeah.
They're almost like I think they're expecting pushback from us.
Yeah.
Like,
Not my
no, no.
journey.
And then you totally just flip them on their heads when you're like, "Oh, good."
Love that. Love that
Like,
for you.
all right.
Awesome. Look, I'm challenged every day.
Yeah.
I am met by challenge every day. I am a double Leo. I got pride. I'm a human being. I'm a human being. Like I
Yeah.
am self-conscious. I am concerned about the things that I'm gonna say. Are people gonna like me or not like me? It's easy for me to make a decision in the moment on whether or not I choose to
Right.
hold on to that, but it doesn't mean I don't feel those things. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
I'm not someone who has to experience the same thing as everyone else. Just
Yeah.
like you move through it in a day, right? You're still experiencing all of the same things. And I think that's the part where if all of these people who are uncertain, if everyone who's uncomfortable, if they get to the end of the book, I'd say, good, be uncomfortable, give it a week, test it out and see how it works for you. And if they wanted to come try it out, go get in the group.
Yeah.
We're in
Yeah,
there
yeah,
every week. People have been working for 4 years and they're just, this is where I'm at this week. It's how I feel about partnership, word
yeah. Yeah.
cycle. They're all the same.
So
Eventually we've gone through all the patterns and they still find more things.
so maybe you hope the readers after that final page say, "Huh, I'm gonna read that again
I hope so.
right now."
Yeah, right. Wait, let me get another piece of that.
Yeah, just right back to the beginning.
I
Hell
hope
yeah.
so. I hope they keep coming back. Yeah.
So that being said, who is this book written for? I'm guessing you have a little bit of a demographic. I mean, I know you touched on this a little bit ago, but obviously everybody in the world, obviously we'd love everybody in the world to be able to be impacted by our stuff, but there has to be, I'm writing a book too, and
Mm-hmm.
it's and I this is funny. When I started my business, everybody was like, "You have to have your niche." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want a niche. I just I want it to be
Right.
everybody,
Yeah.
which isn't really realistic, right? You're
Right.
not going to be able to please everybody. So, did you have a group of people or something that
A
this was?
definitive audience.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, obviously, I'm sure most of the people in your inner circle are going to be more of the target than.
I wouldn't say that, honestly. I'd like to believe the people in my inner circle, maybe this is my own bias thinking about myself. I'd like to believe that because I've practiced this for a long time, I'm not my own target demographic, that my top six are not my target demographic. Um, I do believe this has to do with people who are what we would consider the most conscious in the room.
Hmm.
And by that, I mean the one who is aware enough to recognize the little oddity that happens, a little shift that
Hmm.
occurs when, maybe someone's not truthful or, um, they can't really pinpoint what the energy is. I think this is for the people who have done therapy and healing and coaches and journaling and who have been force fed this concept of it's all about inner excavation. Coaches,
Okay, okay, I'll read that.
right? Right? Like, I think this is for the high performer who is stuck in a collapse cycle. I think this is for the person who is tired of looking for self help, that they're in self help fatigue. When you say it like that, I think it does apply to most of us in this world. I don't think you have to be spiritual. I think you have to be someone who's willing to grow. And that's who this is targeted for, is someone who is actually willing to do something different, to try
Mm,
something different.
okay. I like that. I dig that. So, what's next for you as an author?
Oh, got a break, hopefully. No, we're going into marketing this book. We have a goal of reaching 100 sales in the first 48 hours. And then after that, I don't know what happens necessarily. I have a few more books that I have been toying with, which is actually where I thought I was going to start before this book got written. So I may end up going back to those and seeing what is developed.
Yeah, life happens, right? Life
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to clarify for anybody who's watching, you are going to have a paperback, you are going to have a Kindle.
I have a paperback version available on Amazon only, and then
Okay.
I will have an exclusive PDF copy
Oh,
that, yes, will be
okay.
downloadable, that can be uploaded into Kindle directly. It's not going to be a purchase from Amazon,
Okay.
but that will be purchased directly through my website.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so two forms to get the book.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Um, okay, so is there anything about this book, Spectrum Language, that we haven't discussed that you think is important to readers to know?
I think they'll just have to pick it up, see what's included.
Okay. Because it's kind of big and broad, and everybody's going to find their own way to find
I
it
think
really
people are
useful.
going to find a ton of information for themselves. There is a weekly orientation loop. There is a unique breathing method that you guys can use for a quick 30-second recalibration. There is the glossary of over 100 different words that you guys can connect and start using within the spectrum. So there's a lot of jumping off points and a lot of really cool things that people can connect with.
Okay, so I just want to also throw this out there. If someone's not going to commit to the book yet, can they
Mhm.
still get in touch with you or connect with you
Yeah.
through Facebook or Instagram or
They can reach out. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. All of those. I'll share a link with you guys for in the
perfect?
description with Linktree and stuff. But I have all of
Okay,
those links, including the link for the waitlist for the PDF copy,
awesome.
author bios, and all of that for you guys.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So if someone is listening today is struggling to trust themselves and they only want to remember one sentence from this entire conversation, what would you want that sentence to be?
Insight without orientation is just more of an articulate form of instability.
Okay, that'll do it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kate. I appreciate the time. I know we almost did an hour. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything, and look forward to her book. If you're watching this right now or within the next couple weeks, it is dropping at the end of June. Correct? If I'm not
28.
mistaken, the
Mm-hmm.
28th of June. If you're watching after that, just go straight to Amazon and buy it. No brainer. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Have a great one.
Appreciate you.